So the first thing I have, and I brought this up 3 weeks ago, that we had a last minute person who's never asked for a donation from the city of Winter, wanted to submit a request. Technically, they were past their date that we allow that, but I did ask them, I said, I'll let you turn it in before our next finance committee because budget's not set if you bring everything in. They did submit everything they need to. She did want to explain that this is not for the entire troop. Now, I'm not part of Boy Scouts. I don't fully understand how that works. Jeremy, maybe you could explain a little bit better, but this is not the main group, but the smaller group. Does that make sense?
No.
What they are asking for is $1,500 annual to help further their program, because right now, as you can see, when you look through their financials, and I'm not gonna repeat those out loud, they don't have money. And it's because their group is dwindling, but they want the ability to allow maybe some scholarships for people who couldn't necessarily afford the normal membership each year, different things like that. But right now they can't afford that because of some of their bills. What they initially asked for was if we would pay for their half of the insurance for the Boy Scout cabin. And it was my opinion, and after talking with the attorney too, we're the ones who require them to have that insurance because it's our land and they have the building. I don't think that makes sense for us to pay for their insurance or insure it ourselves if we're requiring them to have the insurance. And they split it half and half with the bigger group. So she submitted a letter that just says, monetary supplement contribution in the amount of $1,500 to help further the program. She gave some ideas of what it would be used for.
The bigger group is probably Cub Scouts. I bet. There's Boy Scouts and Cub Scouts. I bet that's
Oh,
what they're
that could
referring
be.
to. The younger they are, the more of them there is.
Okay.
That'd be my guess.
Oh, so it's the older group.
This is Boy Scouts, the older
Okay.
kids.
Okay, sorry.
That's what I'm betting.
Yeah, sorry. Oh, I forgot you were in Boy Scouts. I don't know anything about it, so.
Unless there were, yeah.
And there's not two
Unless there was a
troops
big
anymore.
blow
No,
up,
there's
there
just
wouldn't
one
be
troop,
two
isn't
troops.
Yeah,
100.
so 1,500, if you want me to plug that in, and then we can see how it throws the budget from there. They
And-
did submit everything.
This is asking for the money in 2024.
Correct.
Okay.
That is what I told her, that this would be for next year's budget.
I am fine with that and send to full council or.
Put
plug
into the budget.
Plug into the
Okay.
budget. I don't know,
Plug it in and see
Jeremy.
where we're standing.
Jeremy?
Yes.
Okay. Resolution 2023-17. This is our current equipment resolution. It has not been updated since 2021. What you see in yellow is what two different supervisors and Troy gave me for updates. Some of them are price updates, some of them are stuff we no longer have and just needed to add them in. So Troy did look at this. He emailed me back, said there was one thing that needed to be added in, which was the Mini X from the electrical department for 100 per hour. Other than that, that was the final one. Electric department looked this over pretty well, and so did the Parks department. So it would need to go to full council for approval.
Okay.
Okay.
Utility account request. Not going to publicly say who the utility account is, but you do have that in front of you. It's my understanding after speaking with this person that a hydrant either broke and leaked or a hydrant was turned on while they were away, and essentially it all floated down into the stream. What they are asking for is not for a break on the water, they're asking for a break on the sewer since it never went into our sanitary sewer system. We can go back and figure what their normal usage would be. You can see it spiked up major that month. That's why I gave you the graph that shows how much it went up. We can figure that. I can't do that without council approval. Or you can say, nope, you didn't watch your hydrant, you have to pay it. Up to you guys.
My opinion, it only seems fair that obviously it didn't go down the sewer system, that we give them a break on it. But have we done this in the past?
Yes.
We have. Okay.
Not often, but there are definitely times where I can't change anybody's bill unless it's an error on our part, but I have brought bills to you guys before.
And we've waived the similar situation. I thought we had.
Yep.
I have no problem with that, adjusting it to the average sewer flow. And I appreciate the fact they're not asking for a break on the water where an accident was made, so sure thing.
I'm
Okay.
fine with that. And I will say, I guess, just for the public, I do feel this is a situational deal. It's some things we can't waive and some things we can.
I agree. Where they weren't asking for the water to be waived, and it was just the sewer charges, I felt very comfortable bringing it in here. We will get that fixed. SDPAA, Justin, you're probably not aware of this, but the last 2 years, council has to pass a resolution to allow me to be on the SDPAA board. SDPAA is South Dakota Public Assurance Alliance. That is who our insurance coverage is through as the city. It is something I do strongly believe SDPAA is the best insurance that we can have right now based off of the trainings and different things that we get for free, the attorney hotline that we get for free, all these things. And it is the cheapest insurance we have right now too. With that being said, me being on that board does give us the ability to have some information that might affect us in the future. For instance, and Jeremy, I know you know this because you work in insurance, property insurance is not gonna get good for a few years. It's gonna get really bad. And these are things that when I learn them, I can bring back and we can start preparing for too. It's 4 meetings a year, of which I take my vacation time to go. It doesn't cost the city anything. Typically, I'm only gone for a half a day when I go.
I think a more fair statement would be, it's going to be ugly.
Yes. I was trying to be nice.
Yes, ugly.
The last number I heard was don't be surprised if you see an 80% increase on property insurance over the next 2 years. Reinsurances are pulling out because they're bankrupt.
You,
It may be in the future the SDPAA is the only one that will insure cities, period. We're looking at back in the 80s when all cities were dropped for insurance, and that's why SDPAA was born. So I need you as a council to approve a resolution for me to continue to stay on that board.
sounds good.
Sounds
Good.
good.
Okay. The other one, we kind of talked about a little bit off camera with budget. I did print off the new budget sheets. Page 1 is your totals of everyone. So you do have your revenues and your expenses in there and your over-unders. When we look at the over-under in general fund, it's $2,077,736 under. In 2023, the general fund was $1,506,762. Of that, 1.1 was budgeted to come from water, municipal, corrections, and electric. And we budgeted $406,000 to be spent out of cash on hand. And that's how we made the budget balance. You'll look at the Communications 911. They are another fund that will never support themselves. They are a specialty fund by definition through the state. And that is one that you guys have determined that corrections will always pay for, the remainder on that one. Your water fund, as it sits right now, would make $35,000 next year. Your electric fund, and this does not include any transfers. This is just their revenues and their expenses. Your electric fund would be $498,000. That's what they would make. Last year was the lowest we've ever transferred from the electric fund of $850,000. We wouldn't even be able to afford that this year. There are several things that were added into the electric fund they've never seen before. $250,000 for transformers, because we know that that's a major issue, plus a contingency / outlay of $195,000. So those are things to think about. Your sewer fund is going to lose $173,666 at this time. Understanding we have not started making cuts or anything like that. This is just with the preliminary numbers. Your airport fund will make $49.
Better than some of the funds.
It's honestly, it's a specialty fund as well. So you're actually doing really good if you're breaking even. So that's a good thing. That does include, if you guys remember, I think Jeremy, you were on that committee. I don't remember who was on it with you, but last year, Dave wanted to do a contract negotiation. That does include that contract negotiation, and he will, in fact, off camera on the 1st, on Monday, come in to completely renegotiate that contract. It's been 10 years since it's been negotiated, so he does plan to come in for that under street sanitation airport. Your sanitation fund, as it sits right now, $102,000 in the hole. Municipal jail, $755,541 to the positive. That's how much they'll make. That does not include any of their transfers. So we automatically know 577 is going to 911, and then if they do the 150 like they have for the last few years to the general fund, it'll break out to about $28,000, I think is what they'll make after transfers. Your cemetery perpetual care, that's another specialty fund. We don't spend out of it unless we've got the ability to spend out of it. You're required by state statute to keep $50,000 in there. In 2022, we did transfer out $11,000 for the sprinklers at the cemetery. And they're still working on that project, but they did purchase them. And then 24/7, we'll need a transfer in order to function wholly as well, which that's been, 24/7 is another specialty fund.
Question on sanitation.
Yes.
The 102 deficit,
Yes.
is that, considering we're digging out the pit too, is that kind of tied in there?
It's all in there.
I think they had that.
Sanitation is recycling, garbage,
Garbage
and
and
out
the
here.
dump.
Yeah, but I
Yep.
don't believe it includes doing another berry pit.
Okay,
That would be in the budget.
yep.
Yep.
You mean it's not it's not an expected presented expense for 24?
No, it is not.
Yeah, okay.
The only major expenses other than day-to-day operations will be your contract to your third party that's hauling, which is River Bottom Sanitation. Then our tipping fees at Papuana, that's averaging at about $8,000 a month right now. And then our hauling fees, which we have a contract with Eagle Trucking right now. They were doing 2 times a week at $426.25 per trip. It's my understanding that we've been able to cut that back so that it's about 2 and 1
Okay.
with the mini X in there. So that number actually may be able to go down some now that we have that. And then your building, that's a guarantee that you are committed to the county, you're gonna pay them $20,000. So other than that, those are your biggest expenses in sanitation. They don't have a lot of extra in there. That, we did get our first check from Recycle, so that number was plugged in to the revenue. It was $1,700, and we send a truckload out every other month, is what I was told. So 1,700, 6 times a year. So I put 10,000 in for revenue on Recycle. This does not, so this still includes all the personnel numbers at 7.5. I will be going in and editing back to the 6.75. That is CPI plus a little bit for merit. That will come out to about $82,000 difference total. And then there are some other ones that we'll talk through each individual committee about what they do or do not want. For potential bumps and different things like that. I am also working on, from the mayor's asked me to get you a list of how many employees each department has had over the last 5 years. So you can see where we've made additions or subtractions, and you guys can kind of look at that too. The other thing that I am working on that I'd hoped to have done before today was our cash and where we were sitting with cash. Unfortunately, payroll took over my life yesterday, and that was priority. So we will hopefully have, it will happen by the end of the week for you, so that you can see where each fund is sitting cash. Do you have questions?
Not right now.
CPI last year was at 675, is that what
So
you said?
CPI last year was 7%,
Okay.
and they had the ability to earn up to 7.25. That is the hardest thing, Justin, that you're going to see when you look at these. On some of these expenses, I did go through, and you can see how much each line increased for each individual thing. Mayor and council, 39% increase, but that's also because you hadn't taken an increase since '06. Most of them are gonna show 11% increase in their personal services, because when we did the 2023 budget, there was an error on our part. We were looking at the wrong group. We were not looking at US Labor, we were looking at the state, and found out later on that the state draws a cap with what we're looking at with property taxes at 3%. So we only budgeted for 3.25%, but we did go ahead and follow our policy at the 7.25. So automatically, there's 4% difference from what was budgeted in 2023 to what is actually being spent. And then add the 6.75 on top of that.
Okay.
If there are positions being added or subtracted, you will have that information as well in each department. As far as the admin building, I really didn't change hardly anything. Total budget is up 8%, knowing that most of that is because of salary. There's a lot of things I would love to ask you for, but I just chose not to, because I kind of knew the answer. And they're not broke right now, so I'm not feeling that they need to be fixed. I'd love to have the parking lot done. I'd love to have AC in the gym. There's a lot of things I'd love to see, but right now, just not a possibility right now. So, under the finance office, I had originally put in 2,200 for 2 new computers. I'm okay to go to 1 new computer, and that would be my computer. It was purchased in 2018. It's time to update it and get all the new information, and that's about $1,100. So I did cut there for you. Website upgrade. So you all have heard that the Chamber Economic Development is building a new website for themselves, and it was, the last I knew, we were splitting off from that, so we were gonna have our own website. We own the domain, thewintersd.org, so we will keep that domain. But with that, I would love to see our website upgraded, because it's not very user-friendly, and it has quite a few issues. I do have a quote for $2,500 to fix that for us next year. And then I did have in there to get a new printer copier upgrade. I know you guys cut it every year, so I cut it for you. That was $12,000. I do have a quote here from OPC on the ability to lease a copy machine. It would be $398 per month, plus then some copy count on top of that. It would pretty much be a wash with what we're currently spending every month on copy counts anyway. And it would be, he did tell me it is a $1 buyout at the end of 3 years, or we can return it and get a new one and redo our lease. So it doesn't change anything other than the lines that the price would be coming out of, and I would like to see that happen. The machine is 10 years old and it's got 1.2 copies on it. They say it's past end of life, and we have had some issues with it this year, so it's getting more and more expensive. Oh, and I'd like to sell the van to the airport. Committee said give it to the airport. I don't know, so that is a question that we'll want to talk about in airport, or we can talk about here as well. How do we want to do that? Airport obviously doesn't have a ton of money. They don't have a lot of revenue coming in. Do we want to sell it to them for $1? Do we want to sell it to them for what it's worth? I know that that was something we had discussed in previous years. Right now, I don't use the van. My office does not use it, but I pay for all the upgrades, and the fuel gets charged to me, which I do not pay for the fuel. I do tell them that they have to give me a PO for it. It's mostly being
Do we
used.
have to sell it to the airport? The airport's a city entity, can't we just slide it over there? and
You
put it in
absolutely
there?
can. 100% you can. It was just talked about in previous years. As you remember, sometimes corrections was buying a police vehicle, and that didn't make sense. So then it would just get slid over there. So it was talked about, no, police needs to pay for a police vehicle, not corrections pay for it. Now this van has been paid off for years. There is no, it's served its purpose for the city of Winter for as long as we've had it. I don't know. That's why I'm asking you guys. Do you want, I think I threw $1 into the airport budget when Dave and I were talking to pay for it. It doesn't have to be anything. It
We
can
had
be,
talked
they'll
about it
just
in
slide it
whatever
over.
committee it was, maybe it's this committee, about getting it labeled and identified. $1 going over to the airport, not value, but it probably don't have a lot of value anyway, but sell it to the airport for $1 if we have to, but make sure that we talked about getting it labeled, that
Yes.
it's a City of Winter courtesy,
Yes.
airport courtesy vehicle, or whatever the verbiage is, so people know what it is and whose it is.
Mm-hmm. Yep, because that's something Dave has asked for years. Right now, he doesn't have enough vehicles. He was doing a lease situation during hunting season. And one of the, I think that maybe he can do it with both of them now, but at one point in time, one of the dealerships in town had said they weren't doing leases anymore. Our previous insurance would not have allowed that. Our current insurance covers the vehicle, not the driver per se, so it doesn't matter who the driver is. You don't have to list that. So it is allowable under current insurance to be a courtesy vehicle.
So what is the lease on the printer? Your expected copy count and all that.
Lease is $398 per month it's 24 months, excuse me, it's 2 years. And then the copy count will be .0135 for each black and .0230 for each color. Right now, because it's a 10-year-old machine, he actually charges me 4 times that amount for each copy.
Who charges you?
OPC. Office Product Center.
Don't you, right, I understand that, but don't you own the machine now?
I own it, yes, but we have a contract with them that they will come clean it, replace our toner, and replace anything that breaks down on it if we pay per copy. We have that here, we have that down at the jail, and we have it on the
Okay,
attorneys.
so what's the budget? How much are you requesting for the lease on the printer copier thing?
So, in the last 6 months, and I don't have my calculator in front of me, so I'm sorry. In the last 6 months, I've spent $3,296 on copies.
3,000 what?
$3,296
Okay,
on copies over 6 months. How
So
much
the-
is that per month?
that would be divided by 6. It's $550 basically.
I do believe it'll be a wash.
It's $47.76 for the lease.
So you get a new copy to use, and it's gonna be less than what you're currently paying for them to service the old ones. That sounds reasonable then.
It's a difference of about $1,800,
And I'll have a new machine.
and you'll have a new machine.
And it prints faster, and granted, I'm waiting for the response of, but everything's emailed.
And we print our own packets now,
Yeah.
so.
I don't mind printing every once in a while for council, for whatever. I am trying to go paperless for employees as well, but that's it's not quite off the road for it yet. Like I printed you guys as a budget sheet today. Last year during budget season, my copy count was $1,000 that month. So I'm definitely not printing as much. Some of our council packets you've seen have been crazy. But, I don't mind printing the agenda for you guys to scribble on. Those are 3 pages. That doesn't cost me much, but the entirety of it,
We don't need the whole thing
Right.
printed. Just, I print my own 3-page so I can scribble on the agenda.
I don't mind printing that.
All I
It's
need.
all the extra information that becomes a lot.
Don't need all that.
Ordinances and all that
Correct.
stuff.
And sometimes I don't know if they really get read. No offense to you guys, but
Email, read them on email,
Yeah.
but not in the packet.
correct.
Yeah.
Yep, so,
I gotta go.
yep.
Anything else we need to address quick?
I don't think so. I think you answered all my questions today.